One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Bowl.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, this is Free Speech Nation with me, Stephen Allen, tonight. And on the show, could we be on the verge of peace in Ukraine? We will bring you that Trump and Zelensky meeting as soon as we get it. Lawyers across the country have been hit by a surge of complaints as comments about trans rights in Gaza have caused these complaints. We'll be joined by a top barrister, Stephen Barrett, to explain. Should free speech protection be a prerequisite of a US-UK trade deal? The founder of the Free Speech Union, Lord Toby Young, will be joining us with some info on that. And why is the NHS still not providing single-sex spaces? We'll be joined by a writer and campaign strategist, Janet Murray. And are universities still not protecting free speech? We'll be joined by an academic who is threatening legal action after her lecture was disrupted. We'll bring you more on that. Oh, and some comedians as well, answering some crazy cultured developments from the live studio audience. But first, the news with Lewis Mackenzie.
Thank you very much. Good evening. It's just after 7 o'clock. Here are your latest GB News headlines. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is in Florida for talks with Donald Trump at his Mar-a-Lago residence. It is expected the pair are discussing an updated version of the US-brokered 20-point peace plan, which Moscow has yet to support. Ahead of the meeting, Trump had spoken to President Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, and described the phone call as very productive. Before the meeting began, Zelensky thanked Trump for hosting him and says he hopes the talks will bring peace as quick as possible. Closer to home, Sir Keir Starmer has been criticised for welcoming the arrival of British-Egyptian activist Alaa Abdel Fattah to the UK after historical social media messages emerged showing the campaigner allegedly calling for Zionists to be killed. The Prime Minister said he was delighted that Abdel Fattah had arrived from Egypt on Friday evening after a travel ban imposed by Cairo was lifted, following lobbying from ministers. The activist with dual British-Egyptian citizenship previously said on social media that it was heroic to kill Zionists, including civilians. The posts have now been deleted. A Number 10 source rejected that welcoming Abdel Fattah's return was an endorsement of his political views. But Shadow Justice Minister Robert Jenrick told GB News the Prime Minister has shown poor judgment.
It is an absolute disgrace. It tells you everything you need to know about this Labour government. I think this man's citizenship should be revoked and he should be made to live in Egypt or, frankly, anywhere else in the world other than the UK.
The UK will impose visa restrictions against people arriving from the Democratic Republic of Congo after its government failed to agree to measures allowing the return of illegal migrants and foreign national offenders. Ministers say the DRC has not made changes required under the tightening of the UK's asylum rules announced back in November. However, the Home Office says the African nations of Angola and Namibia have agreed to step up efforts to take back their citizens, having been threatened with sanctions alongside the DRC. Shabana Mahmood, the Justice Secretary, added they won't hesitate to add extra countries to the banned list if they do not cooperate on illegal migrant returns. And finally, French screen legend Brigitte Bardot has died at the age of 91. The film actress earned worldwide fame as one of the most recognisable faces of post-war cinema, but later withdrew from show business to devote her life to charitable causes, such as animal rights. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Lewis Mackenzie. More from me in an hour's time.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation, and we are kicking off with this story. Regulators in England and Wales have seen a notable rise in professional misconduct complaints against lawyers tied to statements on Gaza and transgender issues. Nearly 30% more reports were made to the Solicitors Regulatory Authority, and the Bar Standards Board saw a 24% rise in complaints this year, with regulators linking much of the increase to contentious political debates, especially on social media. Critics say that this highlights a tension. Lawyers, like all citizens, have personal views but are expected to uphold public trust and impartiality. Regulators insist personal beliefs must not undermine professional conduct. And opponents argue that activists are weaponising the regulatory system to punish lawyers for political speech, chilling free expression within the profession. So the key question remains, should personal opinions affect a lawyer's career, or the complaints mechanism being used as a tool to broaden the cultural disputes? Well, thankfully, we can find out the answer. We're joined by barrister and writer Stephen Barrett. Thank you for joining me. Not often you get a round of applause as a lawyer. It feels weird. Are lawyers getting worse then?
So this is part of a much broader breakdown of law and order in our country. Okay, this is effectively, we have instituted mob rule. So you say, I mean, what we need is clear, simple rules that apply to everybody freely. And instead, what Tony Blair created is a system that is well open to abuse. So these complaints, first of all, you get complaints from people who've never met the lawyer in question. So it is a system that is obviously open to potential abuse. And you start to then say, well, a lawyer has a right to have a political opinion on X topic. Right. Well, then, is that lawyer going to be able to have a view on Y topic? And what mob rule does, and the reason that Tony Blair brings this in, and the reason that the so-called soft left quite like this, is that most of the mob is composed of far left people. And they will push hundreds of complaints against individual lawyers. I don't mind admitting that I had hundreds of complaints which were completely rejected by my regulator when I mocked the reports of deaths coming out of Gaza because they were from Hamas. And I don't trust Hamas because they're proscribed terrorists and monsters. So I was more than happy to laugh at monsters. I actually think laughing at monsters is quite a good policy. But anyway, I got hundreds of complaints. Yeah. Had I praised Hamas or offered public sympathy for Gaza, which would also be a political position, I wouldn't have got those complaints. And Tony Blair knew that this would happen, and it's a way of shutting down right-wing opinions. The problem is, for these geniuses who think mob rule is a good idea, is that eventually the mob will come for them. And we saw this a few weeks ago when Owen Jones tweeted something that the mob decided wasn't quite pro-trans enough. It was obviously pro-trans, but it wasn't quite pro-trans enough. So they immediately came for him. Now, he doesn't suffer one of these regulatory systems. But if he did, he would have had hundreds of complaints to his regulator about this. What we need is clear rules, known in advance, that we can enforce fairly. So if you want impartiality, we can get that back. I can draft that for you if you want.
Well, just to jump into to try and see where we're getting with all the info here. I suppose it would be a fair system if there were a mob complaining in the other direction. Like, the system itself isn't inherently the source of, according to your argument, the unfairness. The unfairness is the asymmetry of the mob.
There is a definite asymmetry of the mob. Right-wing people tend to be more decent and more restrained. That didn't last in Weimar Germany, and that's what we're mirroring.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, you could, if you wanted to track down people who made pro-Hamas comments, and lawyers, I suppose, in this case, and complain against them, the mechanism is there.
The mechanism is definitely there, but this violence, this is a form of passive-aggressive behaviour. It's a form of violence. And a society will not be peaceful and stable whilst there is an awful lot of violence. So the right to responding the way the left currently behave is definitely, to my mind, not the answer. I think the answer is to have clear rules that we can effectively apply. And at the moment, and by the way, the regulators complain, but of course it benefits them. Because if I'm a regulator in a middle-ranking role and all of a sudden complaints have gone up by a huge number, then we'll have to hire more junior staff to process the complaints, and I'll have to have a promotion, thank you very much. You see how the mob and the blob become codependent. But ultimately, we as a society want more peace, less violence. And I would simply implement a clear rule of lawyer impartiality and stop people who aren't clients being able to complain.
You see, that makes a lot of logical sense. I suppose my comparison would be Ofcom type things, because my job has exposed me to more of that, and the idea that people can complain about a show they've not seen, to me, seems odd. But at least, I mean, you can't measure if someone's seen a show. You could measure if someone's had no interaction with a lawyer. Yeah,
Ofcom's the perfect example of why this is mob rule, because Ofcom only ever respond based upon the volume of complaints. OK, that's an absolutely ridiculous system. OK, if a murder is committed and only one person reports it to the police should still investigate that murder and prosecute and go through because a murder was committed. You don't need... The police shouldn't be able to turn around and go, I'm sorry, hasn't reached the 10,000 people have complained yet threshold. But Ofcom will often say, oh, barely anyone's complained, so we're not going to investigate. That is an admission that this is mob rule, that the mob is in charge. And the reason, again, Ofcom is exactly the same thing as our legal regulators. We have created word soups that nobody understands. I had to look at, for reasons which would be obvious to your listeners and viewers, the 1981 British Nationality Act today. And that, over the last 30 years, has been turned into complete gibberish. I mean, it's just absolute nonsense. So how, trying to find any clarity of rule or what the rule is has gone from our society. And we need to get that back if we want to be a peaceful, harmonious place. Just understand what the rule is.
But I suppose another bit of pushback would be, yep, you could bring in a system that is fair, that is well described so we all understand it. That's not going to make people peaceful. If you met people, it might stop you directly complaining about the lawyer you don't like. But I'm fairly sure social media would be still as feisty as it ever was.
Well, and there may be a space for that in public life. And it may be just getting rid of the ideas that you can complain at all should go. Because in many ways, although they probably feel empowered, they are actually pretty much, infantilized, turned into children. I mean, if you get your kicks out of sending a complaint to a regulator, and then the regulator will tell you whether or not, that is a pathetically childish position to be in. You should be a grown-up, and we as a society need to start valuing grown-ups again and saying that grown-ups have, tough skin. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. The right, it's a free country. We need to get these expressions back. It's his right to his opinion, and to go about our lives in an ordered way.
Let me test your left-right bias here, just in case. So the thing you've just described would be a really good argument for letting Gary Lineker tweet whatever he wants while he's also being paid to do sport.
Yeah, and so the problem that I always run into with my position is racism. And what do you do about racism? And I think that so now I'm not saying Gary Lineker in particular, but
I'm going to have to apologise for something.
You're not. But the real test for this position is racism. And I think we've just got to admit that having laws against racist speech haven't really achieved anything. I mean, the DEI industry is absolutely colossal and huge, bigger than it's ever been in my entire life, which must be a statement that racism is bigger than it's ever been in my entire life. Now, I don't believe that. But I think what we need to do is use social controls and morality, and again, get away from the idea that something is morally bad because it's illegal. So things are just morally wrong because they're morally wrong. You know, a lot of people in this country seem to have the view that if a jury in Florida convicts the BBC, then what the BBC did will be wrong. And if a jury in Florida says the BBC isn't unlawful, then what the BBC did would be right. And I would say that is simply tosh. That we should have a moral system, and what the BBC did, whether it's illegal or legal, is morally wrong. And we need to go back to being a society that has a strong concept of morals, and that's how you deal with issues like racism. So you morally condemn racism.
But it kind of implies that we can get to some objective morality, whereas the people, whoever's sending a complaint about a lawyer, I bet they're the hero of their own story, and they think they are doing the moral right thing.
They will do, and that is part of the problem, is this concept of subjective morality. And we need to go back to the idea of objectivity as best we can. Even if we can't get there completely, where we are now is absolutely awful, because we just have regulators who themselves don't really know what the words mean. I mean, Ofcom uses a phrase called due impartiality, and if you actually look at the definition, I mean, it's complete tosh. A thing will be impartial unless it isn't. Oh, great, thanks, Ofcom, that's really helpful. An orange shall be an orange except when it's an apple. Great. These are fantastic.
I suppose regulators don't want specificity in their language. It gives them the wiggle room that they might want.
Well, if you were a cynic, you'd say that the blobbiness, the flabbiness, creates room for more employment and more money. And all the regulators, well, the minute you create a regulator, the minute you create a bureaucracy, all a bureaucracy is going to do is grow. I mean, that's literally what's happening. So the reason that they probably don't like me is not because of any opinion I have, other than the fact that I would sack them all and get rid of it and have a very clear system of law. And once you have clear laws, again, this is about turning us all into grown-ups again, because I think we should be grown-ups. We're citizens, we've got the vote, you know, we are, this is our country. Once you return to simplified laws, ordinary people become the mechanism of enforcement. And I give this example. So Suella Braverman has spoken publicly that in her mind the hate marches, which are allegedly pro-Palestine, crossed the legal limits and could have been blocked. To my mind, they crossed the legal limits and could have been blocked. But I can guarantee you right now, for balance, or whatever Ofcom calls it, you could get a lefty KC who will come on and say, Stephen's completely wrong, Suella's completely wrong, they don't meet the legal threshold. Where does that leave your audience? Where does that leave your listeners and viewers? It leaves them either trusting me and Suella on some sort of nebulous basis, like he's got long hair, or he's genuinely, he's kind to puppies, or it leaves them trusting the lefty lawyer because, you know, he's always on our side and he's on our team. Ultimately, if you make the test so simple that everyone could understand it, you'd be able to read it and go, yeah, I think it does meet the legal test. Yep. Or, nope, don't think it does, Stephen's wrong. And we need to get our laws back to being so simple, because they are your...
Then that is not having a moral test, it's having a legal test, which I think legality stands in for the objective morality, because everyone's subjective. You're talking about bias. You pick the side that's saying the thing you agree with and go, well, that sounds good to me. Whereas you need something that can hold you up against it sometimes.
Often, I would like both morality and law back into the system. So I think law is breaking down because it has too many words and nobody understands it, and it's been taken away from ordinary people and sent over to people like me. And very few of us have the courage to admit that it's gibberish, because to do so is sort of inviting the allegation that you're a bad lawyer. Thankfully, I'm old enough and ugly enough and established enough that nobody's really going to have any purchase to, I'm sure people will try, but turning around and going, Stephen's just a bad lawyer, that's why he doesn't understand the Communications Act 2003. No, absolute tosh.
I guarantee there'll be a tweet saying that.
Well, I bet there will be. But we also, at the same time, need a collective vision of morality back. Yeah. And that doesn't, you know, we can't go to the extremes on anything. Too much law would be an oppressive tyranny. There's such a thing called lawful evil. Yeah. You know, too much morality would get stifling as well. That's, you know, we don't want to be absolutely perfect all the time. There's no comedy if we're always good.
Yeah, and we've run out of time. I could do a 2-hour podcast with you on this. I love this as a topic. We didn't even get to mention your jumper, but thank you very much to barrister and writer Stephen Barrett. So, coming up on Free Speech Nation, don't go anywhere, as we will bring you the latest and the developments regarding the Trump and Zelensky meeting. And my comedian panel will be here, being grilled by the studio audience, so don't go anywhere. Okay.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
There we go. Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. My comedian guest, that's it. Slow hand clap, that's what we need. It's like a speech at the Women's Institute. My comedian guest this evening, we have Jonathan Cogan and Cressida Wetton. There you go. Right, let's get some questions from the audience. Our first one comes from Adik. What have you got for us? Stand up.
Yes, my question is...
Stand up, come on, let's see your beautiful face.
My question is, will a Muslim policewoman would be safe to arrest a suspect getting a CT scan?
So will Muslim policewomen be safe to arrest suspects getting a CT scan? It's a good question. I think we might need to explain the context for it because of the magnetic hijab. It's being rolled out across police forces. It could be to all of them. And this is to help more female Muslim recruits. The blue light hijab, as it's called, is designed to prevent strangulation and protect their modesty. You can sit down this one. And it's for female officers who would like to still wear that religious headwear because it's metallic, so you put it near a CT scan, it would zoom you towards it. Cressida, you're looking at me like I've said some silly things.
I think this invention might be a bit silly. It's like the magnetic bra strap nobody asked for, isn't it? Is this a problem?
Tell me more about this question.
I'm listening.
I just wonder if there are many female Muslim police officers who raise this as an issue to start with.
Do you think the demand might not be there? I mean, Leah, the numbers aren't huge.
I hope they're not regularly getting strangled. I don't know. I don't know. And you think they might fashion something themselves to accommodate comfort? I don't know. It's an odd one to me. This feels like something we're supposed to get very stirred up about. But having appropriate uniform at work is no bad thing, is it?
Would you say having a magnetic hijab was polarising?
Don't encourage it.
Yes. Look, I read this article, Steve, and I'll tell you this. I think it's quite a shame that they actually left out the fact that Jewish police officers have had their yarmulkes fashioned into Japanese throwing stars, which was something that was quite a useful thing. So the fact that they didn't include that shows we live in a two-tier policing reporting system, and I, for one, will not stand for it. Also, Krista pointed out I have a hole in my chinos, which some of our keener viewers have seen already, so please don't...
As long as no one notices that.
Yes, keep it. And my boxers are bright blue, so...
I didn't point it out, I was shown it.
Oh, sorry. Look,
you need a magnetic something else.
Yeah,
that's right.
I need my modesty covered. I understand their plight.
Yeah. Isn't this, just to try and get us away from your crotch and back to the story, isn't this like, you know, the ties that male police officers, they're clip-ons, so you can't strangle them. Not that I've tried, but you just pull off rather
than... There you go. OK, so it's quite sensible.
Yeah. It's also like the tail on a gecko. You know, when a predator bites the tail just comes off. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
One knows about some science.
Yeah, you know some
South Poles.
That's very true. I mean, look, what can I say? I think well, apparently these have taken 20 years to develop. So I'm tired of people dumping on England, saying that we're not technologically innovative. America are launching rockets into space and catching them in midair, and we have made magnetic head coverings. So
amazing. What a great nation. Right, on to our next question from Aggie.
Hello, good evening. Are male climate skeptics just insecure about their masculinity?
Are male climate skeptics just insecure about their masculinity? It's a great question, because new research provides evidence that men who are concerned about maintaining a traditional masculine image are less likely to express concern about climate change. Causation or correlation? Let's find out. The findings suggest that acknowledging environmental problems is psychologically linked to traits such as warmth and compassion, like the ladies like. And if Cressida, as a woman, if you like warmth, you're part of the climate problem.
That's true, is it? Because we do like the heating on.
Yeah.
I don't think they're doing it to show off to their male friends. I think they genuinely don't care.
Oh, well, that's an interesting take.
That's my take on this. I've spent many years saying, I don't need feminism, I'm not a feminist, I now live with a man, and that's quite a good way to get back into feminism. He thinks you don't have to wash out the recycling, and that is just the tip of the iceberg, Steve.
Yeah,
they don't care. I don't think men are very interested.
Is it possibly, Jonathan, also because if you're into climate stuff, you also don't like male men, not male men, not post-men, masculine men. So actually, it's not as if, like, if I turned up being all butch, like I am, shush,
sure.
Greta wouldn't like that. So they've eschewed us before we eschewed them.
No, that's a fair point. I mean, I sort of understand what you're saying, Steve, but backstage, Steve was telling me that climate change is a myth, that it's all a big scam, and that your scientific mind has sort of come to that conclusion without doubt. Is that true?
No, it's not my scientific mind. It's my testosterone and
it's so high.
Muscles.
I mean, you are an absolute Chad, and I could lick yogurt off your abs, but that's for another day.
Not again.
But yeah, it's not, again, as Krista said, it's not that we don't care, it's just that we're so busy crushing puss all over town that it's not in our...
Yeah, that seems very believable. Very
yeah.
Can I just say, before we move away from this story, I like it was published in the Journal of Environmental Psychology. How is that the journal? How do you feel about the planet?
Basically, the story is women getting in a tiz more than men. Shock.
Well, let's move on. Our next question is from Mark. Mark, what have you got for us?
Yeah, hello there. Just a quick one for you. Why are MPs scared of the Church of England?
Why are MPs scared of the Church of England? A group of MPs and peers have urged the incoming Archbishop of Canterbury to stop the Church of England from spending £100 million on slavery reparations. The 27 parliamentarians warned in a letter to Dame Sarah Mullally the move could set a worrying precedent for other organisations who feel that they must follow suit. 100 mil, would that fix things?
Well, I think one way to fix things would be if you gave them the 100 mil, but in high street vouchers, because then you solve the problem of the dying high street, and you also make some people happy.
Yeah.
I think, if Smith all of a sudden are getting paid by... And it will all be African-American descendants? Was that right? Or Caribbean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Smiths might find a new renaissance. It might be reborn into like a cool shop.
It's in Smiths is in WH.
Yeah,
toy shop. Got some bad news. Got some bad news about WH Smiths.
Gone?
They gone. T.G. Jones.
Oh, that's worse than reparate. No, fair enough. Okay. Well, look, there are other shops on the high street, and we at GB really recommend you support your local high street, because otherwise we'll all be living in caves doing blow-off Anton. That's what's going to happen. Isn't that right, Anton? What do you say about that?
That's a very difficult clip you could make out of that as well. Cressida, I can't remember what the question was, but your thoughts?
We're asking why MPs are scared of the Church of England, because they're misspending the money. It's like sending him off to get sandwiches with everyone's cash and he just comes back with sweets.
Or
it's
magic
not...
beans.
Or magic beans.
Yeah.
It's not what it's for. It's meant to maintain the church, and it's not like the church is doing brilliantly with numbers, so it's not what it's for.
You keep going on about that roof as well. Until you fix the roof, maybe don't fix the other things.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Isn't there actually a question that they're not... Some have the theory that they're not allowed to spend the money in this way?
Yes.
So that...
Well, because it's supposed to be for the church's needs here, where the church is.
Yeah. Church of England, the clue's almost in the question, isn't it? And now it's our time for the final question. Who's got the final question on this section? Anton, what have you got?
Will the postman Pat catch on?
The postman Pat question, yes. This is an issue of the gender of postmen. There's a job advert that's gone up about looking for postmen, but you can't call them postmen these days, it's post people, and people are getting upset about this. Jonathan, are you really...
Well, if people didn't get upset about words, then this show wouldn't exist.
That's true.
We need that. Send us your gripes. We will talk about them for 20 minutes. We'll all get paid £40 an hour, and then we'll go home happy. Steve, what do you think?
Yep. Cressida, are you upset about the fact that you can't call postman postman?
Well, obviously, language is very important, isn't it? When I was little, we didn't have a cat, we had a dog, and my mum used to sing Postman Bob with his black and white dog to us.
But they can rhyme.
You were represented?
We were represented in our house. I don't know, it's a bit silly. Not hearing post person isn't why I'm not a post person.
Good point. Could also I throw in another take on this?
I don't think so. I think that's all we... No,
I think it was the 90s when we stopped calling postman postman.
Yeah, this feels
We've been doing this for ages. Like, the two Ronnies did sketches about this, so that would have made it good.
What do we call them?
Well, for postie was a weird thing.
Postie.
For a while. But their jobs are all like letter development distribution operative. That's what jobs are called these days, aren't they? No one has a normal job name.
Yes, short-wearing executive.
Yeah, all of that lot. So I'm amazed the Daily Mail managed to get something out of this. Well, they did. There we go. So more questions on the way. Coming up, could 2026 see the end of the Ukraine war? We're expecting more updates from Mar-a-Lago, and we'll bring them to you as soon as we get them. But next on Free Speech Nation, should the US make free speech protections a prerequisite for a trade deal? The founder of the Free Speech Union, Lord Toby Young, will be joining me after the break to discuss. See you then.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest holiday sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. We'll see some unsettled weather across the Mediterranean in the next couple of days, but things quieting down increasingly into next week. As for Monday, some showers across the Canaries, some more general rain across Madeira, fairly unsettled across parts of Spain and the southwest of France, but for central and eastern parts of the Mediterranean, not faring too badly. Bit of a breeze, but in the sunshine, not feeling too bad at all. As for the outlook, well, it stays pretty unsettled on Tuesday, further showers to come, but things quieting down and feeling pleasant in the sunshine next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. High pressure holding on over the next 24 hours or so. There will be a lot of cloud around, but I'm hopeful sunnier skies are expected by Tuesday. In the meantime, high pressure sat to the northwest of the UK, drawing in a lot of cloud from the north and east. So some of us have seen a few brighter breaks today, and as we head through the evening and overnight, it still remains rather cloudy. The cloud thick enough for some light rain and drizzle in places. The clearest skies across parts of Scotland, temperatures here down to -6 or -7 in the countryside. Some thick fog patches developing through the central belt could lead to some tricky travel conditions first thing. Elsewhere, temperatures generally hovering just above freezing, but any clear spells of patchy frost is possible. A weak weather front across northern Scotland, giving some outbreaks of light rain first thing on Monday morning, but elsewhere, sunny start across Scotland. No fog patches through the central belt could lead to some tricky travelling conditions. Elsewhere, generally quite cloudy for Northern Ireland, much of England and Wales, but the cloud will be broken in places to allow some sunnier breaks, but there'll also be some frost patches around and maybe some fog too. And then as we go through the day, we'll see this weak weather front just introducing the risk of a few showers down eastern parts of Scotland, eventually eastern coasts of England. Elsewhere, a lot of cloud, but again, western areas the cloud could break at times to allow some sunny spells. Quite breezy along the east coast, keeping temperatures here 6 or 7 Celsius generally for most, perhaps up to around 7 or 8 around the coasts, and where the fog lingers it could stay quite cold through the central belt. On Tuesday I'm hopeful there'll be more in the way of sunny spells. Many places dry, though again still the risk of some coastal showers across the UK and still rather chilly. It stays dry and settled into New Year's Eve, but then New Year's Day onwards it's likely to turn colder and a bit more wintry.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Now we're talking about free speech, political pressure and the growing international dimensions of Britain's culture wars. More to the point, could Trump and the Trump administration use the UK-US trade deal as a way to leverage free speech protections over here? We all know that the UK government is desperate for a trade deal with America, so should the Trump administration demand stronger free speech protections in return for that trade deal? We're joined now by the founder of the Free Speech Union, Lord Toby Young. Thank you very much for joining us. There he is. So, first question would be, is it Donald Trump's job to be sorting out what's happening over here?
Just to be clear, I'm not Lord Toby Jug, which is I
was saying joining us and Young at the same time, and I got it wrong. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's all right. I think that the interest that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and the Trump administration more widely is taking in the perilous state of free speech in the UK is helpful. The enemies of free speech are numerous and extremely well funded, and seems to include virtually every country in the EU, not to mention the governments of Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. So to have a powerful ally in the form of the President of the United States and his lieutenants, I think, is extremely helpful. And I went to Washington a few weeks ago and met with some members of the State Department and suggested that they could include a preamble in the US-UK trade agreement, the main trade agreement, which still hasn't been finalized, a preamble committing both sides to upholding our shared principles. So our joint belief in democracy, the rule of law, and free speech, which wouldn't have any legal meaning, but would be politically significant, I think, and make it harder for our government to further erode free speech, which I'm sure it's planning to do next year. I also proposed something a little less ambitious, which was to include in the preamble to the tech prosperity deal, which has currently been put on hold, but which was announced on Trump's state visit earlier in the year, to put in the preamble to that a commitment by both sides that they wouldn't try to interfere in the legal protections for speech in either territory. So the Americans wouldn't try and impose their free speech values on us and vice versa. And the significance of that would be it would make it difficult for Ofcom to try and take enforcement action against US tech companies based in the US for failing to comply with the Online Safety Act. I think that would be extremely helpful as well. So those were my two suggestions, and it remains to be seen whether either is taken up.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's not unheard of, the idea of having some requirements in these deals, especially if we're talking about human rights records and those kind of issues. So if the thing you care about is free speech, then it makes sense to add free speech into these preambles. I suppose the question you've half answered, but just for some clarity on it, how could we define it and how could we measure it? That metric is the tricky thing with free speech, isn't it? How could we know if this government is failing?
Well, a pretty reliable metric, I think, is how many people are arrested for online speech offences. So that was a really eye-catching stat that the Times uncovered. They submitted FOI requests to every police force in the United Kingdom to find out how many had been arrested under suspicion of having committed, I think, just two speech offences. One was Section 1 of the Malicious Communications Act. The other was Section 127 of the Communications Act. And according to the Times, over 20,000 people were arrested under suspicion of committing just those two online offences in 2023, which is an average of more than 30 a day. And I think in the league table of how many people are arrested in different countries around the world for speech offences, that puts us right at the top, ahead of Russia. Quite extraordinary. So I think that's a pretty good metric. How many people are actually being hauled down to police stations and interviewed under caution for hurty words on social media.
I was going to say, this is a topic we might touch on later on the show as well, but I think it's appropriate now. The end of the non-crime hate incident, all of these logging, that mood music makes it seem like we're heading in the right direction. But of course, the thing you've just listed are people actually being arrested under acts. Do you have any faith that things are improving?
Well, I think the number of people arrested under suspicion of having committed those two offences declined slightly in 2024, and that's the latest year we have data for. I think it declined from over 30 a day to around 27 a day. I suppose that's a marginal improvement, still pretty dire. It looks like we are going to see the back of non-crime hate incidents, which is good news. It's something the Free Speech Union and others have been campaigning against for quite some time. The notion that you can be stopped from getting a job because you've committed something which isn't a crime, because you have an NCHI recorded on your record. And it can stop you getting a job if your employer asks you to do an enhanced DBS check. It can show up on an enhanced DBS check. So that's good news. The devil will be in the detail. We haven't yet seen what the proposal of the College of Policing to the Home Office is going to be. They're due to submit their proposal next month, and it remains to be seen whether Shabana Mahmood actually takes it up. But it looks as though police forces across England and Wales, at least, will stop investigating reports of hate incidents unless they suspect a criminal offence has been committed. And after concluding their investigation, if they do investigate, let's say they investigate someone like Graham Linehan under suspicion of having committed a criminal offence, which is why he was arrested at Heathrow in September by 5 armed police officers. If they conclude that no offence has been committed, they'll only record it if it's considered to be quite serious and has some intelligence value. So the idea is that the recording threshold would be much higher than it is at the moment, and they won't be recorded as non-crime hate incidents, but as antisocial behaviour incidents. And they haven't said whether they will still show up on enhanced DBS checks or could show up on enhanced DBS checks. That's a detail that we haven't yet learnt about, but that's certainly something the Free Speech Union will be lobbying for.
While I've got you, I'd love to get a couple of minutes on that. Let's go back to America for the idea of one country not impacting the free speech of the other one. Because you've got an interesting case of a handful of people having their visas revoked. They're saying that's impinging on their free speech because Europe tries to impinge on the free speech of the tech companies in America. It's both sides are claiming free speech. This is the paradox of free speech, isn't it? What's happening with that one?
Yeah, well, yes, so the State Department, a few days before Christmas, announced that it would be imposing a travel ban, or if they were resident in the US, revoking their residential visas on 5 people who they accused of agitating to interfere with the speech rights of Americans. And 2 of them are UK citizens. One is the head of the Centre for Countering Digital Hate, the other the head of an organisation called the Global Disinformation Index. And they have certainly both been quite energetic in encouraging US social media companies to ban Americans from social media for supposedly spreading hate. So they have been lobbying for censorship in the US. We know that the Centre for Countering Digital Hate does that because it spells Centre, C-E-N-T-E-R. I mean, it makes no bones about the fact that even though it's a British company, it is trying to censor Americans in America. And at the head of its, I think its priorities, its strategic priorities for 2025, a document was leaked, and the priority was to kill Musk's Twitter. So that's, you know, a US tech company owned by a US citizen. And so I think it's understandable why the State Department would say to Imran Ahmed, the head of the Centre for Countering Digital Hate, look, we don't see why we should grant you a residential visa to live in the United States if your aim is to interfere with the First Amendment rights of US citizens and try and destroy profitable US companies that employ lots of Americans. So I think it's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. And as you say, he's now claiming it's an interference in his First Amendment rights. I mean, rather ironically, and some would say hypocritically, he's claiming First Amendment protection for his right to interfere with the First Amendment rights of US citizens. It remains to be seen whether he'll get anywhere with that legal challenge, but I'd be quite surprised if he does.
That's an absolutely fascinating case. Thank you for that. Thank you for joining us as well. I'll try and get your name right this time. Lord Toby Young. You see, I can make vowel sounds and consonants out my face. Thank you for joining us. Right, coming up on Free Speech Nation, could we be on the verge of peace in Ukraine? We're expecting to hear from Trump and Zelensky in the next hour, so we'll bring you the latest on that. But next on Free Speech Nation, why are there still no single-sex spaces in the NHS? I'll be asking a writer and activist, Janet Murray, on the way next.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co. with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. So the NHS still has no guaranteed single-sex spaces for women in hospitals across England, despite a landmark Supreme Court ruling earlier this year that defined women in law by their biological sex. An audit of the 190 NHS trusts with inpatient services found that none have policies ensuring wards, changing rooms or toilets are reserved exclusively for biological women, and most continue to allow access based on self-identified gender. Critics say the trusts are defying the law. While they're waiting for updated guidance from the Equality and Human Rights Commission, the government and the NHS England have revised guidance under review, but it's not yet been published. So, what's going on? Well, to discuss this, we're joined by writer and campaign strategist Janet Murray. Thank you for joining us. What is going on?
Well, it seems that, I think it was The Telegraph published a story, I think it was yesterday, and if their research was actually carried out by citizen journalists, by, I think, women who actually put in freedom of information requests to different NHS trusts, and unsurprisingly perhaps found that none, it seemed, were actually had any kind of policies in terms of making sure that women had access to single-sex spaces. It is very disappointing because the Supreme Court ruling in April, it didn't tell us anything we didn't know before. It clarified the law, that women should have access to those single-sex spaces. So yeah, it's disappointing, but not really that surprising.
Yeah, I suppose by clarifying the terms in the Equality Act, you know what it means in the Equality Act. The question maybe, just try and give a little bit of benefit of the doubt to the NHS Trust, is are they talking about... We know what a single-sex space is. Are they actually talking about single-sex spaces when they talk about toilets? Do you know what I mean? Is that the area where they're trying to use the...
Well, I think it's talking about wards. It might be talking about changing areas for staff as well, also toilets. But interestingly, I've spent a lot of time in hospital, unfortunately, recently, because I've been treated for breast cancer. Thankfully, I'm OK now and kind of moving through it. But I went and had a look on my NHS Trust on their website, and I found something that was highlighted in the report, which was actually about half of the policies that you would expect to see were missing. So right. the kind of things to do with equal opportunities, discrimination, patient care was missing. And I guess I didn't have time to contact them. Obviously, we're in the Christmas period, but I guess they may say that they're reviewing things.
That is the claim, isn't it? That all they've done is simply they've identified the policies that need looking at and just made them disappear.
Yeah.
And until they get guidance, maybe they won't come up with their own guidance.
Yeah, but what are they waiting for? Because, as I say, the Supreme Court ruling didn't tell us anything we didn't already know. It clarified, what was already in the law, that, when we're talking about equality, we're talking about biological sex, male and female. So what are they waiting for? That's the question, I think.
Do you have a feeling that they're waiting for someone to try and sue you using the Equalities Act?
I don't know.
If no one ever does, then the definition of the Equalities Act doesn't mean anything if no one's using the Equalities Act.
Personally, I feel it's about avoiding having difficult conversations, because if you're an employer that has been allowing men to use women's changing rooms, for example, or you have been quite lax on the women should be able to request to be in a single-sex ward if they want to. I know certainly my NHS Trust has quite a lot of... they publish stats every month about how many breaches they've had, and mine certainly had a few over the last few months, and I feel personally that it may be about avoiding having difficult conversations, because if you've been doing something that's unlawful and then you have to go back to people and say, we said this was okay, or we told you not to worry too much about when this happens or whatever, then you have to kind of walk that back. But I don't know, that's just my theory.
So there's the Supreme ruling on the Equalities Act, but also a couple of high-profile cases that have happened where we now have the results on those. Would you not think that they might inform the NHS on what to do?
Well, you would think so, but again, it feels like it almost feels like an excuse. It's like we're waiting to have this new guidance when we already know what should be in it. So again, it just feels like a stalling tactic.
And you drew my attention to your badge there. What does it say?
It says toilet monitor.
Toilet monitor.
Yeah.
How's that working out for you?
Well, I received this in the post, I think it was on Tuesday this week, anonymously, no note, a typed name and address on the front, and initially I thought, it might be a nice gift from a well-wisher, like, a fellow women's rights activist, a bit of a joke or something like that. But I asked in a few groups that I belong to, and people said, that's probably from a trans activist who wants to send a message to you and wants to try and kind of humiliate you or make you feel that you're doing something wrong. So I shared a photo of it online and I said, thank you very much to the person who sent me this. I shall wear it with pride. But it is a bit weird, that you took the time and the trouble to buy this, to package it up, to buy a stamp, to send it out in the post. The postmark was all sort of smudgy. It's very weird behaviour. And I was just left with a feeling of, well, what lengths will people go to get into women's faces? Anyway, I put a photo of it online and immediately women's rights activists were all saying things like, where can I get one, where can I get one? So I decided to try and source one. So this was a couple of days before Christmas. I managed to source one in suffragette purple, put it on sale for $4.97 and flying off the shelves.
Yeah, so you've given yourself the job of toilet monitor. Isn't it fascinating, though, where both supporters and people who don't like what you're doing would call you the same thing?
Yeah.
Interesting,
but I think there's one thing about women's rights campaigners is they do have a good sense of humour, and so even like TERF, that was initially, or often it's thrown at women who defend their single-sex rights and as a kind of insult, but actually we've just kind of taken it on and saying, fine, if you want to call us that, then we'll take it on. We've got a sense of humour.
Added to the collection, I got one that says I didn't get a Blue Peter badge. So, we've all got our crosses to bear, haven't we? Thank you for joining us, writer and campaign strategist Janet Murray. An NHS spokesperson gave us a response. The NHS is continuing to review its guidance on same-sex accommodation while we await final guidance from the Equality and Human Rights Commission, and as part of the process we will consider and take action into account of relevant legislation and the Supreme Court ruling. That is the end of the first hour. On the way in the next hour of Free Speech Nation, do not go anywhere because we've got loads more to come between 9 and 9 o'clock. We've got some comedians back in here for some more questions posed by this audience to try and get to the bottom of some cultural issues. We'll see how they deal with it. It's all still to come on Free Speech Nation.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. High pressure holding on over the next 24 hours or so. There will be a lot of cloud around, but I'm hopeful sunnier skies are expected by Tuesday. In the meantime, high pressure sat to the northwest of the UK, drawing in a lot of cloud from the north and east. So some of us have seen a few brighter breaks today, and as we head through the evening and overnight, it still remains rather cloudy, the cloud thick enough for some light rain and drizzle in places. The clearest skies across parts of Scotland, temperatures here down to -6 or -7 in the countryside. Some thick fog patches developing through the central belt could lead to some tricky travel conditions first thing. Elsewhere, temperatures generally hovering just above freezing, but any clear spells of patchy frost is possible. A weak weather front across northern Scotland, giving some outbreaks of light rain first thing on Monday morning, but elsewhere, sunny start across Scotland. No fog patches through the central belt could lead to some tricky travelling conditions. Elsewhere, generally quite cloudy for Northern Ireland, much of England and Wales, but the cloud will be broken in places to allow some sunnier breaks, but there'll also be some frost patches around and maybe some fog too. And then as we go through the day, we'll see this weak weather front just introducing the risk of a few showers down eastern parts of Scotland, eventually eastern coasts of England. Elsewhere, a lot of cloud, but again, western areas the cloud could break at times to allow some sunny spells. Quite breezy along the east coast, keeping temperatures here 6 or 7 Celsius generally for most, perhaps up to around 7 or 8 around the coasts, and where the fog lingers it could stay quite cold through the central belt. On Tuesday I'm hopeful there'll be more in the way of sunny spells. Many places dry, though again still the risk of some coastal showers across the UK and still rather chilly. It stays dry and settled into New Year's Eve, but then New Year's Day onwards it's likely to turn colder and a bit more wintry.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
There's plenty more still to come on Free Speech Nation this week, but let's get a news update first from Lewis Mackenzie.
Thank you very much. Good evening. It's just after 8 o'clock. Here are your latest GB News headlines.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is in Florida for talks with Donald Trump at his Mar-a-Lago residence. It is expected the pair are discussing an updated version of the US-brokered 20-point peace plan, which Moscow has yet to support. Ahead of the meeting, Trump spoke to Russian President Vladimir Putin, describing the phone call as very productive. Before the meeting began, Zelensky thanked Trump for hosting him and says he hopes the talks will bring peace as quick as possible. Sir Keir Starmer has been criticised for welcoming the arrival of British-Egyptian activist Alaa Abdel Fattah to the UK after historical social media messages emerged showing the campaigner allegedly calling for Zionists to be killed. The Prime Minister said he was delighted that Abdel Fattah had arrived from Egypt on Friday evening after a travel ban imposed by Cairo was lifted following lobbying by ministers. The activist, with dual British and Egyptian citizenship, previously said on social media that it was heroic to kill Zionists, including civilians. The posts have now been deleted. A Number 10 source rejected that welcoming Abdel Fattah's return was an endorsement of his political views, but Shadow Justice Minister Robert Jenrick has told GB News the Prime Minister has shown poor judgment.
It is an absolute disgrace. It tells you everything you need to know about this Labour government. I think this man's citizenship should be revoked and he should be made to live in Egypt or, frankly, anywhere else in the world other than the UK.
The UK will impose visa restrictions against people arriving from the Democratic Republic of Congo after its government failed to agree to measures allowing the return of illegal migrants and foreign national offenders. Ministers say the DRC has not made changes required under the tightening of the UK's asylum rules announced in November. However, the Home Office says the African nations of Angola and Namibia have agreed to step up efforts to take back their citizens, having been threatened with sanctions alongside the DRC. Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood added they won't hesitate to add extra countries to the visa banned list if they don't cooperate on illegal migrant returns. And finally, French screen legend Brigitte Bardot has died at the age of 91. The film star earned worldwide fame as one of the most recognisable faces of post-war cinema, but later withdrew from show business to devote her life to charitable causes, such as animal rights. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Lewis Mackenzie. More from me in an hour's time.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Now, a University College London professor is threatening legal action against the University of Bristol after protesters disrupted her lecture on sex and gender. Professor Alice Sullivan says demonstrators prevented attendees from fully participating and that the university failed to protect her right to free speech, free expression. Bristol University insists that the event went ahead safely with security measures in place. The dispute has now drawn the attention of the Office for Students, although the regulator has so far declined to comment. Professor Sullivan says that she is considering all legal options to ensure academic freedom is upheld, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Professor Alice Sullivan herself now. Hello. So what happened on the day that we're talking about?
Well, it was absolutely extraordinary. So we were on in a first floor lecture theatre, but there was a massive kind of mob of protesters outside, and they climbed the walls. So they actually scaled the walls of the building in order to bang on the windows and shout into the windows. I mean, it really felt like some kind of zombie apocalypse had hit Bristol. It was absolutely bizarre. They also set off fire alarms, which obviously was hugely disruptive and distressing for people who were attending the lecture. And ultimately, there was so much disruption that we had to leave that lecture theatre and go up a floor to a higher floor where the protesters couldn't climb that high up the walls.
I guess the fire alarms are still a problem regardless of how high you are in a building.
Yes, so there was all sorts of disruption. There was, there were people making it really difficult and intimidating for guests to get into the building. So lots of problems that really the University of Bristol should have been on top of.
Did you know going in that the content would be, in some people's eyes, controversial?
Yes, but I was really shocked by the scale of what happened. I've never seen anything like it before. And, it is 2025, and it felt like a bit like getting in a TARDIS and going back to 2018. Just, surely we're over this now. Surely universities should have got a grip on this by now.
Well, I suppose that's the thing. If you were aware that the general trend might be that some people would see it's controversial, but you were shocked by the scale, would you have sympathy in the university being surprised by the scale? They might have presumed things wouldn't be zombie apocalypse levels.
I think the university knew, and they did not communicate transparently with me about what was going on. So I was initially invited by a professor at the University of Bristol to give this talk. He invited me about 18 months ago. So I was due to speak last autumn term. And very close to the date when I was meant to be speaking, I was told, oh, actually, it's got to be online, not in person. No reason given. So I think they expected me to just not ask any questions. But I did ask questions. I said, well, why? What's going on here? And they said, well, we haven't got time to organise security. I said, fine, let's reschedule, so you've got plenty of time. Then the next time it was rescheduled, I realised they hadn't advertised it in the normal way on the university website, so people wouldn't know it was happening. So I pushed back again, and they said again, oh, we'll need to reschedule. So they had had plenty of time, and I know from seeing internal risk assessments that they had actually, they were actually saying that they had received serious threats, but they didn't share that transparently with me, so I had no way of knowing what was really going on.
You mentioned 2018. I remember, being a free speech kind of guy, remember the discussions about no platforming. That was the phrase. We don't really use that anymore because, thankfully, it tends to not happen in the same way. But it's just as bad. It's as near as damn it. If you are platforming, but in a way where you're not advertising an event and the event is allowed to be mainly fire alarm, that's not really a platform.
It's, and this is what tends to happen, and what I discovered had happened was that an internal LGBT staff network had made complaints. They'd said things like, this professor has published a book that contains chapters by people like Kathleen Stock and Joe Phoenix, so therefore, it would be very harmful if she's allowed to speak. And so then the university, instead of saying, well, actually, we need to be able to explain to these people that if they've got a problem with a talk, well, first of all, how do they know they've got a problem with it unless they come and listen? Maybe they should come and listen and find out. But instead of taking that approach, what the university has done is try to appease the people who don't want discussions to take place. And bear in mind that what I was going to be presenting on was a government-commissioned review, the conclusion of which is very simply that we should collect data on both sex and on transgender identities. So I have never suggested that, it's one or the other. It's not a zero-sum game. I've always said I think everybody should count, everyone should be counted. Everybody's rights matter. So I just wonder if those people who are hammering on the windows, if they'd actually been able to hear, which of course they couldn't hear what I was saying, would they have been offended by it? Because I find it hard to believe anyone really would be if they knew what I was saying.
Yeah, I mean, no one's existence is being denied by collecting more data, I imagine.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it, that there are some people who don't want to join in a debate. The thing I always say is you can't win a debate unless you're willing to take part in it. But it doesn't seem to matter. The idea of just silencing people who might say something you disagree with, it's almost the same outcome. I guess that's the way they try and do it. But if the idea that simply because they don't like something that's in a book that you published, you're then never allowed to speak ever again, that's cancel culture, isn't it?
It is cancel culture, and the problem is, I think, that people have got away with it for so long. And universities, I think, have sort of taken the lazy option in a way. They think, oh, the easiest thing to do, because these people are so aggressive and so intimidating, the easy thing to do is to give in to them. But actually, in the long term, it's not the easy thing. In the long term, you destroy the function of the university if you give in.
So, you know, if they'd have arranged it where there could be a Q&A session, so you could have actually debated with the kind of people who were climbing the wall, would you have been willing to do that?
Absolutely, and in fact, it was a completely normal seminar, so there absolutely was a Q&A element to it. There's always a Q&A element. And I have given talks where people have come along and asked challenging questions, and that's what you expect in a university, so I completely would have welcomed that.
Yeah. It's interesting you say it's a body within the staff, because you read that, when I read the story, I think it's easy to have the assumption that these are just students doing the studenty things that we all did when we were students. You know, you have some ideologies when you're that age. I certainly did. I didn't climb a wall over it, to be fair, but, but you imagined it would be the first-year students getting all very ideological. That seems to be the least of the problems here.
That's right, and I think this whole thing is often portrayed in the media as students versus academics, and that is an absolute misrepresentation. The way I have seen it playing out many times is that it's actually staff who are objecting to the things that some academics want to talk about. And so we can blame those staff groups, but I think ultimately the blame has to go to the senior managers who run our universities. Students don't run our universities.
Although that is the big change. From the days when I went to university, it very much seemed like you were grateful to be there because you were given it for free, I suppose, and you were a student, whereas now it feels that academia has a system that's a bit more like service provider and customer. And that doesn't seem to be helpful when you have issues like this, that, you know, if the customer's always right and the customers are the students paying their fees, then the power dynamics changed in academia.
I think you're right that marketisation hasn't helped, but I think we also need to remember that it's not all the students. It's often a very small group of students who are engaging in this kind of disruption. And students as a whole really miss out. I mean, one of the things that made me cross about this is that the University of Bristol would not allow students to attend. And so I sort of understand why, because they're worried about disruptive people getting into the room. But there are ways to handle that. You can, you know, insist that everybody shows ID and so on, so that if somebody is disruptive, you'll know who they are. And really, how can we say that students are getting a proper education if they're not allowed to discuss something as basic as data collection?
Yeah, it doesn't seem... They're not going to make a film about it, are they, data collection? It seems like unless you hear a thing you disagree with, you don't know why you disagree with it fully. You don't necessarily... We don't have to presume everyone needs to change their minds if they hear you. But until you know the detail of the opposing argument, how would you win that argument?
Absolutely. I mean, it's... And I'm... The problem is that then all you hear is a misrepresentation. So you get something kind of at third hand, like, oh, I've heard this person's really terrible and evil and, you know, wants to kill everybody. And, you know, I can tell you that that's not, that's not what I'm saying.
That's what I heard about you before you turned up. That's why I was scared, but it turns out you're not like that at all. It's weird, isn't it? So you say the students weren't allowed to attend the seminar. Who was the seminar for?
Well, under normal circumstances, a university seminar would be for everybody who wants to come. So staff in the faculty, staff in other faculties, students, and potentially also people from outside who are just interested. And that's really important, that you get that mixture of people. That's what intellectual life is about.
But the students weren't allowed to come. It wasn't advertised, and you had to get through some zombies and some fire alarms. Well, interesting times. Yeah, well, thanks very much for joining us. Do you know when are you doing more of these? Does it put you off the idea of doing it, or would you...
Oh, not at all. No, I will never, ever give in to intimidation.
Nice. Well, you've made data collection sexy as well. Thank you very much for joining us, Professor Alice Sullivan. We also have a statement from the University of Bristol. A spokesperson gave a response. Professor Sullivan's seminar went ahead safely, in line with our strong commitment to uphold free speech. Although protesters caused unacceptable disruption, appropriate measures were in place to enable the event to continue and to protect the speaker and attendees. Professor Sullivan expressed her gratitude to our security team for their support and subsequently met with our our Vice-Chancellor to discuss what happened. We refute claims that we failed to protect her freedom of speech. Every action we took was in support of this, and the restrictions she outlines were all necessary for the public. That's their statement. Right, coming up on Free Speech Nation, we're monitoring events in the United States. I will be bringing you any updates as we have them. And my comedian panel will be answering some searing questions from the audience. All on the way next.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation, and welcome back to my comedian guest. This evening we have Jonathan Cogan and Cressida Wetton. And we can go back to some questions from our audience. John, with this one, what have you got?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My question is about charities. Should charities know UK law?
Good question. Should charities know UK law? Britain's leading abortion charity has been criticised for encouraging sex-selective terminations amid fears that these are on the rise in the country's Indian women. Interesting question, Jonathan. I mean, try and make fun out of this.
Yeah.
Don't. Cressida, try and make fun out of Jonathan. It's a worrying story, isn't it?
It is, because you don't want a population where there are no women, because then you get basically angry men, and that's how revolutions happen. And obviously you don't. I mean, this is a very tricky issue with loads of landmines, and I think I'll step in them. So basically, what's your opinion on choosing the life of a man over a woman? Because I know Often you've said that it is a good thing to do, but I personally take some moral issue with that.
If it's just me as a man, I'm pro that one. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
This is... I mean, Jonathan's right. As much as he's not often right, he's accidentally right about the issue that you do cause additional societal problems if you have a couple of kids and then you want to make sure the next one's a boy, so you have terminations to get rid of girls. This is just wrong.
Well, that's the macro problem.
That's one of the many problems.
That's before we deal with the estimated 400 female babies that have been killed because of this to date. So, yeah, it is terrible, and I'm amazed you didn't say there's no one to make the tea, so well done, you're growing. That's what I thought he was going to say. Of course, it's horrendous, but getting away from your... lopsided society. For the individual women dealing with this, it's horrific, obviously. And the question was, should the charity know the law? Yeah, if you're going to give legal advice, you should, absolutely. It's not OK, you can't do it. Having said that, of course, we're a very liberal society, and it's my body, my choice. So she's able to do that if she wants to, but how do we know...
So, Cresta, you were saying there's wonderful technology that can make baby girls into boys if they just go through the right gender-affirming care.
It'll never catch on.
OK, well...
The charity, though, it's almost... It's like a semantic argument, isn't it? It points out that gender isn't specifically listed. It's not vetoed in the rule. So it's not saying, yes, it's perfectly legal to have sex-selective terminations. It's saying there's no law against it because it's not actually listed as one of the reasons you can't.
Well, OK, fair enough, but it's a strange thing to choose to say, isn't it? It tells me there's some activists in the office. It's not...
Well, it's very Philip Schofield, unwise but not illegal. It's kind of a good way of putting it up.
Apologise for him as well in a second, aren't I? But meanwhile, a spokesperson for the BPAS said last night, as our website correctly states, fetal sex is not mentioned in abortion law in the UK. The reasons women may seek abortion care are diverse and complex, and our experience caring for more than 100,000 women every year is that it is vanishingly rare for any woman to seek an abortion on grounds of fetal sex.
P.S. Boys rule.
They didn't add that bit. I think I should probably say that. John S. has got the next question. What you got for us, John?
Are exams racist?
Let's just say yes and move on, shall we? It'll be quicker to... No, are exams racist is the question. Exams and essay writing should be ditched, apparently, because they unfairly favour white students, according to a report from an elite university. Birmingham, elite, nice to know. I went there, so I'm surprised it's elite if they hear about that. It says that traditional methods of assessment are measurements of smartness based on white privilege, adding that it is harder for students from ethnic minorities to do well. Cressida, are they saying what we think they're saying? They think they can't do exams.
It's just stunning, isn't it? It's incredibly racist. Yeah. I'm offended. It's racist. I don't know what else to say. Birmingham University is being racist.
Yeah, ouch.
Also known as the racism of low expectations.
That's the chaps.
The bigotry
there we go.
of, yeah.
I read it in the article. But no, what do I think? I don't think exams are racist. I was a white once, a student once, still white. And, yeah, exams, they were hard. They were difficult.
Yeah.
Luckily, I got my butler to teach me everything I needed to know, and I passed with flying colours.
Look, I'm sure the University of Birmingham would say that it's not racist, and we're talking about the racism of low expectations, which is just...
Good quote.
It's pointing... Yeah, I heard it from someone whose butler was really clever. Yeah. So that's my source. But it's in the whole article, it says that exams are exclusionary. Yeah. Isn't that the point of them?
Yeah, it's like dating apps, isn't it? Yes, they are exclusionary. That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, they always have those age
ratings. Exam, you don't get the thing that you get when you can pass the exam.
Yes, and if you do pass the exam and other people are getting it who haven't, well, you're not going to like that.
It's meritocracy, and they're trying to destroy it. And what do we call that? Communism.
That's what it is. Took a leap there, didn't you? Yeah. I mean, this is in the business department as well, which I seem to remember was no proper department in my day when I went there. The chemistry department, of course, the Haworth building, excellent place. But it doesn't really matter as much if people in business are getting on a course. But you know what? When it comes round to someone doing some surgery, you're like, where did you qualify? Oh, I didn't, but I did write a personal essay that said why I should be a doctor.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone's elitist when they want a good dentist, aren't they?
Fair enough. The University of Birmingham have a right of reply on this one as well. This report from colleagues in the business school suggests a range of actions that may help students understand and explore those different perspectives. Birmingham Business School is a global business school educating students who come from all over the world. Understanding the world from multiple perspectives is a critical skill that we teach our future business leaders.
Oh, bore me later, Birmingham.
Yeah, very dare you, Old Joe's Tower. Our next question is from Adik. What do you got for us?
Hi. I have a really personal question. It was really shocked me to hear that. Has the British government really... sorry, apologise.
Can't have been that personal.
Apologise.
Is someone helping you? Are you receiving notes?
Sorry.
You wouldn't be allowed in a casino doing this.
So should the government be really happy about bringing in Ala Abed al-Fattah?
Don't blame me, I'm going to read it from a thing as well. It's an atrocity, though. Should the government be happy about bringing in yeah, that one. No, well, this is because he's an activist who has dual British-Egyptian citizenship. Previously said that it was heroic to kill Zionists, including civilians. He urged Londoners to burn down Downing Street, told his supporters to kill police, and said he hated white people. And now he's over here. Cressida.
He's not just over here. Keir Starmer said he's delighted that he's over here, and that's the problem, isn't it? And I don't expect the government to necessarily know what's going on in the tweets of every single person who's being helped in foreign prisons. But this one, he's going to have to... He needs to come out now and say something really big and that he's horrified and he didn't mean it and he had his fingers crossed behind his back and he's not doing it.
Far-right thuggery, that's what he's going to say. That's exactly what this is. This guy is just your... Look, this guy has said nothing more extreme than your average Green Party councillor. He's here... That's what we do now. We say we want to kill Jews and you get elected. Welcome to 2023, everyone. This is what we do.
Yeah. I mean, the government might say it can't not help people just because there was an objectionable tweet.
Sure, but they also love locking people up for an objectionable tweet these days. So maybe you could say we live in a two-tier Sharia, Keir, Starmer, the Farmer, Harmer, featuring Osama. I've run out of rhymes.
Yeah. You were rhyming so well, it was like the song at the end of Grease. I thought the car was going to take off in a minute.
Yeah.
Beautiful work. Right, and let's have a look. We've got a government spokesperson says Mr al-Fattah is a British citizen. It has been a long-standing priority under successive governments to work for his release from detention and to see him reunited with his family in the UK. Time now for our final question. Anton.
Is enough attention being given to trans soldiers?
Has enough attention been given to trans soldiers? Well, the Imperial War Museum... You're not meant to laugh yet, John. Imperial War Museum has been accused of reframing history to give it woke appeal in a new tour that features trans people in conflict. Created to mark the 25th anniversary since the government lifted its ban on gay people serving in the armed forces, the new digital tour tells personal stories from LGBTQ+ community in times of war. Have you been on the tour, Cressida?
No, but I've been to the Imperial War Museum within the last year.
Yep.
And when I went, the big thing was women in war, and the gift shop was all... I'm not kidding, it was tea towels saying the future is female. I mean, have a day off. Like, it's the war, it's mostly blokes dying in horrible conditions. Let it go.
Have a day.
So, well, but it is... Look... And now
spoken like a true misogynist.
Focusing more and more on minority aspects of that. And I think we should have a war museum about what happened in war. I think that's really important. I mean,
And you'd use not metres and you'd use inches, so it would be the Imperial War Museum. I like...
That's the main
issue. Pitch. It's the main thing.
That's the main issue. Look, OK, but when they're taking stories like somebody wore a dress in a horrendous prisoner of war situation when they were trying to cheer up the troops, and they're turning that into a, look, this is evidence of trans, and they're just putting it through their lens.
They did panto, isn't it? That's what that story is. Someone did a panto once.
Yes,
yeah.
Go and make a trans museum. I don't know. I think it's inappropriate.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose statistically, there are absolutely loads of men who die in war who will not be remembered in these museums because it's just data. There's so more people will be forgotten about in war due to one of the horrors of war.
Yes.
Is it unfair that, would you say trans people are being overrepresented at the moment in the Imperial War Museum?
Why, Steve, yes, I would.
Oh, interesting. Anything more to say on that?
Absolutely not.
Oh, I'm glad I bothered speaking.
Yes, no, it was... no, I agree, and yet in some ways I disagree. But it was the best of times, and it wasn't the best of times. And all is fair in love and war. Don't put on a dress because I'll say you are trans. That's what they say. Shakespeare.
What of the stories? So you're right. There's the person who made a dress and wore it as some sort of a performance, literally a panto. There's the field workers. This is a woman who wasn't at war.
Right.
That's what the field workers did. They took the place. So some bloke goes off to war, and then she works in the field. But she liked to be called John, and then that's your story.
But maybe that was just a naming preference. Who knows?
Yep.
Who knows? As long as we're spending government money on this stuff, I'm happy. That's what we should be doing.
Yep.
Spend more.
But then, OK, here's some pushback, and no one ever likes this slice of honesty. You know, they did an Imperial War Museum exhibit that was exactly what you've asked for and exactly what you joked about, whatever. We won't be talking about it. No publicity at all. You just do, here's a war thing about war stuff. No one covers it.
Well, we have Remembrance Day, don't we? I think.
Yeah, but look, we're actually talking about it on the telly because they've done a thing. It says they've wokeified it. They'll be in the Daily Mail, they'll be in all the newspapers, and we're getting all angry.
You're saying no publicity is bad publicity? The fact that they've talked about something controversial, we're now thinking about the War Museum, could be a good thing.
And maybe it'll upset people, but, you know, they've also got all the weapons. So if we turn on them,
yeah,
they could take us, that War Museum.
They probably could, actually. Look, I just think war is bad.
OK. I'm glad, thanks for that. You're very brave. I'm glad you said that. It's brave. A spokesperson for the Imperial War Museum said in response, this year is the 25th anniversary of the UK government decision to lift the ban on LGBT people serving in the military. To mark this anniversary, visitors to our Imperial War Museum London and the North one, the museums can find out more about some of these stories by scanning a QR code next to the exhibits in our galleries. We are proud to play our part in telling some of the lesser-known stories of lives affected by war and conflict.
Well, if they've got a QR code, then fine.
You didn't realise that.
Oh, well.
Coming up on Free Speech Nation, we will make sure that you get the very latest from Florida as it arrives. And why was a teacher reported to counter-terrorism authorities? You won't believe the answer. It's on the way.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello, here's your latest holiday sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. We'll see some unsettled weather across the Mediterranean in the next couple of days, but things quieting down increasingly into next week. As for Monday, some showers across the Canaries, some more general rain across Madeira, fairly unsettled across parts of Spain and the southwest of France, but for central and eastern parts of the Mediterranean, not faring too badly. Bit of a breeze, but in the sunshine, not feeling too bad at all. As for the outlook, well, it stays pretty unsettled on Tuesday, further showers to come, but things quieting down and feeling pleasant in the sunshine next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. High pressure holding on over the next 24 hours or so. There will be a lot of cloud around, but I'm hopeful sunnier skies are expected by Tuesday. In the meantime, high pressure sat to the northwest of the UK, drawing in a lot of cloud from the north and east. So some of us have seen a few brighter breaks today, and as we head through the evening and overnight, it still remains rather cloudy. The cloud thick enough for some light rain and drizzle in places. The clearest skies across parts of Scotland, temperatures here down to -6 or -7 in the countryside. Some thick fog patches developing through the central belt could lead to some tricky travel conditions first thing. Elsewhere, temperatures generally hovering just above freezing, but any clear spells of patchy frost is possible. A weak weather front across northern Scotland, giving some outbreaks of light rain first thing on Monday morning, but elsewhere, sunny start across Scotland. No fog patches through the central belt could lead to some tricky travelling conditions. Elsewhere, generally quite cloudy for Northern Ireland, much of England and Wales, but the cloud will be broken in places to allow some sunnier breaks, but there'll also be some frost patches around and maybe some fog too. And then as we go through the day, we'll see this weak weather front just introducing the risk of a few showers down eastern parts of Scotland, eventually eastern coasts of England. Elsewhere, a lot of cloud, but again, western areas the cloud could break at times to allow some sunny spells. Quite breezy along the east coast, keeping temperatures here 6 or 7 Celsius generally for most, perhaps up to around 7 or 8 around the coasts, and where the fog lingers it could stay quite cold through the central belt. On Tuesday I'm hopeful there'll be more in the way of sunny spells. Many places dry, though again still the risk of some coastal showers across the UK and still rather chilly. It stays dry and settled into New Year's Eve, but then New Year's Day onwards it's likely to turn colder and a bit more wintry.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show. It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored. Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable. What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. And free speech in schools is under a spotlight after a teacher was reported to the government counter-terrorism officials and forced to resign for showing students videos of former US President Donald Trump in a class, prompting calls from education leaders to restore common sense in classrooms. Critics say that the case has raised concerns about safeguarding procedures and academic freedom. And this comes as police leaders have announced plans to scrap the recording of so-called non-crime hate incidents, a practice that logged alleged hostile behaviour on records, even though you might not meet the threshold of a criminal offence. Well, to find out more about these stories, we're joined by External Affairs Officer at the Free Speech Union, Connie Shaw is with us. Thank you for being here. So, showing a video, literally, well, there is a chance that we have to cut to coverage of Donald Trump, as I'm hearing that showing a video of Donald Trump could get you referred to Prevent. Am I a terrorist?
Well, by some people's definition, even the Prevent's definition of a extreme right-wing terrorist ideology is cultural nationalism, and they define that as being concerned that Western civilization is under threat by mass migration and lack of assimilation. That is an official category of extreme right-wing terrorist ideology, according to our own state.
So I am a terrorist. I knew you were going to say that.
I'm also a terrorist, apparently. But so this case is a teacher at Henley College in Oxfordshire, and he was a politics teacher, and he was delivering a lesson talking about the US election, which had just recently happened in 2024, and he was talking about it at the time, and obviously Trump had won. And part of the lesson was showing students videos of his campaign to, how does a leader successfully campaign to be elected as the President of the United States. And 2 students complained about the teacher to the school. They said that they accused him of being biased and said that the videos that they were being shown wasn't relevant to what they were being taught, which is extraordinary because it's an A-level politics lesson. And the school took this investigation forward. They told him that he had made some students feel quite uncomfortable, and they referred him to the local designated safeguarding officer, or authority officer, I should say, sorry, LADO. And LADO came back and recommended that he be referred to Prevent because his views could be seen as radical, potentially extremist, and that he could have caused emotional harm to students. And with the backing of the Free Speech Union, he brought a grievance against the school. He managed to get a payoff of £2,000, but he was effectively forced to resign. But this case on its own is not an isolated incident. The Free Speech Union has a growing collection of cases exactly like this. A couple of weeks ago, even last week, I was talking about another teacher who was working at a secular school, and he was sacked, basically, because he had, after he had been referred to his local LADO, because a parent had complained after he told some Muslim students that they shouldn't be washing their feet in the communal sinks in the toilets. And he was trying to teach about religious tolerance because there had been sectarian bullying going on in a primary school. Girls who didn't wear a hijab were being teased. Other students who didn't fast in the same way were being mocked. That teacher also got in trouble, referred to safeguarding authorities. And it's very clear there's evidence that some people are using safeguarding protocols, which are there to protect children from sexual predators, abusive parents. They are weaponising these protocols against people whose views they disagree with. And it's awful because if you're told you can't work with children, most people are going to assume, when you have to explain to people, I've been told I can't work at this school anymore because I'm a risk to children, most people assume that's because you've done something truly horrific, the worst possible things you can think of. Yet actually, these are people who just have, typically, in the cases that we've seen, centre-right or just non-woke orthodoxy views. It happened with Jamie Michael as well. The Welsh FA decided that he wasn't allowed to coach his own daughter's football team because of the 12-minute video he'd posted on Facebook, which he had been found not guilty of stirring up racial hatred by a jury, acquitted in 17 minutes, but the Welsh FA decided to punish him anyway, told him he could watch his daughter play football, but his behaviour would be monitored on the pitch side. He was referred to safeguarding authorities as well.
You could say that wouldn't happen again in the future when you don't get access to a jury, but maybe that's a discussion for a different topic. It's almost like this story breaks down into two parts, because it's almost understandable, knowing what teenagers are like, that there might be a vexatious complaint made by a teen. But the fact that it gets moved higher up, there is meant to be a system in place to stop teenagers just doing stuff like that. That's where the real worry is, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's quite evident to me, at least, especially in my own experience at school, that adults seem to allow children to lead the way. It's the children who are dictating what the adults decide to do, and because they're so pressured by the authoritarianism of basically woke, what we would describe as woke politics, that they just submit. And this teacher, you say, you know, there are vexatious complaints. The teacher, he told the Telegraph that he believes that it was complaints from students whose mocks he had downgraded. He didn't give them very good marks on their mocks, and they weren't very happy with that, and so they decided to weaponise the fact that he'd shown them videos of Trump's campaign. He'd also shown videos of Kamala Harris's campaign. So, yeah, it seems like it was a vexatious complaint, but yet the school took it seriously. Not only that, Lado then said that he should be referred to prevent. That is our first point of call for counter-terrorism. That's where we refer people who we think are at risk of being radicalised by an ideology that could cause them to actually be violent. And this is a teacher doing his job as a politics teacher.
Yeah. And again, it's this area of, surely there should be some people who don't agree with Trump's politics who should find this appalling. And that little space seems to be not populated anymore. It's bizarre that you don't have to love a political side to think, no, you're allowed to express that, especially if you're showing both sides and discussing it in an educational environment. But do you know what? You're also here to tell us about some hope, that maybe all of this, the tide is changing. In the old days, it would all be non-crime hate incidents, this, that and the other, but that's coming to an end.
Yes, so shortly after that Graham Linehan had no further action taken against him after he was arrested by 5 armed police officers at Heathrow for some tweets, the Met announced that they would no longer be investigating non-crime hate incidents, which was good, but we thought we don't just want them not investigated, we don't want them recorded at all. Now we have had the news that the police have recommended that they shouldn't be recorded at all, and this is brilliant because non-crime hate incidents, although they were originally created in goodwill to prevent what happened to Stephen Lawrence, the awful racist murder of him in the 90s, but the way that non-crime hate incidents have gone on to be recorded have basically, I mean, their very definition is anyone who feels that they have been offended and they perceive the directed speech towards them to be targeted at one of their protected characteristics. The police, even without any investigation, can put an NCHI next to your name. You may not even know if you have one of these. We may all have one of these and we may not know, but they do come up on enhanced DBS checks, so it could stop you from getting a job. And we've seen, in particular, trans activists use these to weaponised against people they don't like. Obviously, the most famous case being Harry Miller, who had a non-crime hate incident recorded against his name after he expressed his gender-critical views. So it's great news, but again, cautious optimism, because we want to see all previous and historic non-crime hate incidents to be deleted from people's records. And that's one of the reasons why Lord Young, Toby Young, that you heard from earlier, is putting his amendment onto the Crime and Policing Bill to make sure that all historic NCHIs will be scrapped and deleted from people's records. So hopefully Shabana Mahmood, Home Secretary, will review this recommendation from the police and hopefully take on board Lord Young's amendment in the Crime and Policing Bill.
I heard somewhere it was pronounced Lord Young, but it might be a different thing. Maybe he used to complain about that. So we don't know if the previous ones are going to be wiped.
Not yet.
Also, I suppose we heard before that they shouldn't be used as much, and that didn't really happen. There was information given or guidance given to some police forces to not record them as much, and that didn't happen. Will this definitely be able to be followed through, or will some people at the business end of the policing still manage to find a way around it?
Well, we'll see. We know that there is significant issues with the College of Policing, the way that police are trained. We know that they're ideologically captured to take what we call hate crimes to be extremely serious. And also, part of the announcement that a common sense system will replace non-crime hate incidents. And it will mean that they have said that only behaviour that is categorically the worst type of antisocial behaviour will be recorded against people's names. That is defined in law. So hopefully when they say common sense, they mean it, but we don't know really whether common sense actually means common sense. But we won't stop fighting this battle. We haven't won the war, but we're still fighting this next battle to make sure that all of them, historic, have been deleted as well. Yeah. But it's certainly a step in the right direction towards policing our streets and not our tweets.
Yes, and I suppose, I mean, common sense doesn't seem to be that common. I honestly think we should rebrand it as uncommon sense, because it feels like we need that wake-up of realising, no, just because everyone you know thinks this doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing. I'd slightly worry that if you now we know that there's a higher bar to be met before something gets recorded, whether things will be rounded up, bumped up, in the opinion of whoever's arresting you.
What do you mean?
As in, like, we're now just a non-hate crime incident will be recorded, but if it's deemed to be severe enough, well, will more lowercase things be deemed to be more severe now?
Well, potentially, but with this new category of actual antisocial behaviour, supposedly if it's serious antisocial behaviour, then that's already a crime in many instances. So hopefully there will be no such thing as non-crimes being recorded. I mean, the very name is so ironic. Why should we have any mark next to our name if you haven't committed a crime? You categorically are innocent because you've committed a non-crime. So it's yet to be seen. We just hope that, like you say, the common sense truly becomes more common and actually common sense.
We'll see. Thank you very much for joining us on that one. That's the External Affairs Officer of the Free Speech Union, Connie Shaw. Thank you. Regarding the teacher who was reported to counter-terror forces, a spokesperson for the college has said the Henley College does not comment on individual allegations or ongoing investigations. We are committed to safeguarding the well-being of all our students and staff and follow statutory safeguarding procedures in line with Keeping Children Safe in Education 2025. Allegations are handled with due care in accordance with statutory guidance with appropriate support provided to all involved. Well, you're up to date. And let's make sure you keep it here on GB News for more. Well, it's still to come. We're expecting there to be an update from Mar-a-Lago very soon, and we will bring you the latest. But first, why are a couple in America taking their own city to court? They're joining us after the break to explain. We'll see you then.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Yeah, so when I was 5 years old, one of my family members, friends, was looking after me one day, like babysitting me. And then on that day, it was a well-trusted friend of our family, was babysitting me and took me upstairs and he raped and abused me. So from then on, I've suffered and suffered. One of the things that he did say to me was that he would kill me or hurt me in my sleep. So ever since then, I've always suffered with PTSD, night terrors. It never goes away.
It took 20 years for you to face it to
20
this.
years, yeah, to ever come out about what had ever happened to me. My parents didn't know. I didn't tell them anything.
Because a lot of men in your position, a lot of boys in position, they'd rather just take the burden of shame on that comes at a great, can come at a great cost.
Yeah, lots of friends and family. And I was just scared to tell them, you know, because obviously as well, if I did ever say anything about it, he was going to come and get me. So I managed to find an organisation which is charity run called Arch Teesside, which is near where I live. And I went to go see them. And my therapy at the time, the guy was called Dave Taylor. And he was a big guy, full of tattoos. And, you know, when you see somebody, you think, how am I going to open up to somebody of this man, you know? And I hit it off, like, straight away. And I've always told him, this is what I love doing. I love going to the gym. I want to step on stage by the time I'm 40. And then that's what I went and did.
And look at you then.
I mean, what modelling shots, yeah.
You said in your book there, hold your book up, people want to get a copy of this book. Tell them what it's called, mate.
Buy the book.
What's the book called, mate? Tell them.
It's called Breaking the Silence, A Champion's Journey.
And this is it. And your message that you say, if you help one other person out there to channel their pain into purpose, mission accomplished, mate.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. So a federal appeals court has ruled that the city of Nashua, New Hampshire, violated the First Amendment by refusing to fly certain flags requested by residents. The dispute began when officials denied requests to raise a Save Women Sports flag and an Appeal to Heaven banner, while allowing other flags on the public flagpole. We're joined now by activist and special education teacher Stephen Scare, and activist and grandmother Beth Scare joins me now. So tell us, what happened about you and your flags?
Well, my wife wanted to fly a Save Women Sports flag to commemorate an event where a woman was trying to bring publicity to the problem of men and women's sports and spaces. The flag went up for one day, and then there was an outrage in the community. And so the mayor reacted by taking it down.
So I guess that would be fair if there were loads of stories of other flags being taken down, but I imagine you're going to tell us that other flags are allowed to fly.
Yeah, every single flag that was requested was allowed to fly from 2017 to 2020.
Wow, OK. And is that the only flag that they denied your right to fly?
No, in addition, of course, the appeal towards having the pine tree flag, they turned that down. And also, I had a friend who's a detransitioner, and she made me a special flag for Detrans Awareness Day, and they refused to fly that one as well.
All right. And so, I mean, where you are, though, you're right, it's protected, First Amendment. So why didn't they back down as soon as you started talking about the First Amendment?
Well, I mean, after the shirtless, this happened in 2020 when the Save Women Sports flag was taken down. And so then it wasn't clear what the law really was. And then in 2022, the Shurtleff versus Boston case was decided unanimously by the Supreme Court in favor of allowing the Christian flag to fly on Boston City Hall.
Right.
And that's when I thought, they're going to come around and they're going to let us fly these flags. And they just refused. They just said, this is government speech. We can fly.
Well, OK, we're running out of time, but hopefully we'll come back to you and get more on this story as you get more updates on it. Thank you for joining us on Free Speech Nation. Thank you to my panel and to all of the brilliant guests this evening. Stay tuned. Brilliant Alex Armstrong tonight is on the way for you next. It's been Free Speech Nation. Goodbye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. High pressure holding on over the next 24 hours or so. There will be a lot of cloud around, but I'm hopeful sunnier skies are expected by Tuesday. In the meantime, high pressure sat to the northwest of the UK, drawing in a lot of cloud from the north and east. So some of us have seen a few brighter breaks today, and as we head through the evening and overnight, it still remains rather cloudy, the cloud thick enough for some light rain and drizzle in places. The clearest skies across parts of Scotland, temperatures here down to -6 or -7 in the countryside. Some thick fog patches developing through the central belt could lead to some tricky travel conditions first thing. Elsewhere, temperatures generally hovering just above freezing, but any clear spells of patchy frost is possible. A weak weather front across northern Scotland, giving some outbreaks of light rain first thing on Monday morning, but elsewhere, sunny start across Scotland. No fog patches through the central belt could lead to some tricky travelling conditions. Elsewhere, generally quite cloudy for Northern Ireland, much of England and Wales, but the cloud will be broken in places to allow some sunnier breaks, but there'll also be some frost patches around and maybe some fog too. And then as we go through the day, we'll see this weak weather front just introducing the risk of a few showers down eastern parts of Scotland, eventually eastern coasts of England. Elsewhere, a lot of cloud, but again, western areas the cloud could break at times to allow some sunny spells. Quite breezy along the east coast, keeping temperatures here 6 or 7 Celsius generally for most, perhaps up to around 7 or 8 around the coasts, and where the fog lingers it could stay quite cold through the central belt. On Tuesday, I'm hopeful there'll be more in the way of sunny spells. Many places dry, though again still the risk of some coastal showers across the UK and still rather chilly. It stays dry and settled into New Year's Eve, but then New Year's Day onwards it's likely to turn colder and a bit more wintry.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to become our biggest cash prize winner to date. £85,000 in totally tax-free cash could be making its way from our bank account to yours. It would be like having over £7,000 per month extra to play with, each month for a whole year. That could be you, safe in the knowledge that 2026 is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional.